We spend, what, a third of our lives, maybe more, working? But how often do we actually stop and think about the architecture of our job?
Almost never, right.
Right. So today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the engineering of work. We're talking about all the unseen scaffolding that, decides who gets hired, how motivated we are, even how safe a company is.
Yeah, these are the crucial sort of behind-the-scenes processes. They're what determine if a company has the right people, doing the right things.
And for anyone listening, whether you're managing a team or maybe looking for a new job, understanding this stuff is like a shortcut to real business literacy.
It really is. I mean, this is a layer of strategic clarity that most people just dismiss as HR paperwork.
Exactly.
But it goes so much deeper. We're talking about internal equity, high-performance design. It's about structuring the work itself for motivation and performance.
And that idea you mentioned, fairness, that feels central. I mean, without a really solid, impartial definition of a job, its complexity, its value, then decisions about pay or promotions, they just become subjective.
Completely subjective.
Full of bias.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, just inefficient.
So what's our mission for this deep dive? Where do we start?
We're going to build a full model starting from the ground up. The foundation is a tool called job analysis. From there, we'll look at its outputs, the job description and the job specification.
Okay.
Then we'll get into the fun stuff, how you can redesign jobs for motivation using job enlargement and job enrichment.
And finally,
We zoom all the way out to the entire company with Manpower estimation. It ties everything together.
it sounds like the complete blueprint of a modern organization. And I'm guessing by the end, we'll all be able to read that blueprint like an architect.
That's the plan.
All right, let's start at the beginning. The foundation.
The foundation, analyzing and defining the job.
So this all starts with the systematic study of the job itself. You called it job analysis. Yes, job analysis. And it's defined as the process of critically evaluating the operations, the duties, and the relationships of a specific job.
So you're really putting a single role under a microscope.
Exactly. And I have to stress, this isn't just, a manager jotting down a few notes. This is a formal, scientific, and very detailed process.
Scientific.
Yes. The whole point is to get all the pertinent facts about a role. Think of it less like a summary and more like a forensic audit of the work being done.
Okay, a forensic audit. So if it's scientific, how do they actually do it? Is it just like a series of interviews?
Interviews are definitely part of it, but it's much more systematic. You
Yeah.
really have two main approaches, two lenses to look through.
Okay.
First, you've got what's called task-oriented analysis. This looks purely at the what tasks, what duties, what responsibilities.
So what machines do you use, what tools, that sort of thing?
Exactly. What are the physical outputs? This is really useful for jobs that are very standardized. Think manufacturing, data entry, things with clear, repeatable operations.
That makes sense. It sounds like you could just observe someone and map out their process.
You could, but then you have to bring in the second category, worker-oriented analysis.
And that is?
This flips the focus from the tasks to the human. It asks, what knowledge, what skills, what abilities does the person need to have?
So it's not just what you do, but what you need to be able to do.
Precisely. What are the cognitive demands, the social demands? This is absolutely crucial for complex jobs, knowledge work. A software engineer, a strategist.
I see. So a really thorough job analysis would combine both of those, the task and the worker.
A truly comprehensive one has to. You need both to get that holistic picture.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. But I have a question about timing. If this is an audit, like you said, does that mean it's always looking backward?
It is. Almost by definition, it's a retroactive tool. A job analysis is performed on ongoing jobs.
So the job has to exist first.
Yeah.
Someone has to actually be doing it.
Right. You have to be able to see it in the real world. You need to observe the actual stresses, the demands, the operational context. You can't really analyze a new sales process, for example, until it's been tested against actual customers.
Which means job analysis is always playing catch up with innovation.
Yes.
And with how fast technology changes things now, I have to imagine that analysis can become obsolete really, really quickly.
It absolutely does. I mean, think about AI, automation. They can change a job's duties in months, not years.
So it's not a one-and-done thing.
Not at all. Or it shouldn't be. Smart organizations, especially ones going through big changes, they have to treat this as a continuous review process. Otherwise, the data just becomes useless for making any real strategic decisions.
Okay, so it's exhaustive, it's expensive, it's cyclical. Why do it? What are the big payoffs that make all this effort worthwhile? You mentioned 6 core uses.
Right. This is where the investment pays dividends. Let's start with the employee. The first use is career path planning. When you define the skills and prerequisites for every single job, you create a clear roadmap. An employee can literally look at the next level up and see, okay, these are the exact skills I need to learn to get there.
And for the company, that's succession planning, making sure you have a pipeline of talent ready to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which leads directly to the second use, training and development.
Right.
If you know exactly what a job demands, let's say it's proficiency in a specific kind of software,
Right.
you can stop doing generic one-size-fits-all training.
You can target the specific gaps.
You can target the precise gaps, it helps you design the training, and crucially, it gives you the objective criteria to see if the training even worked.
The third point, job evaluation.
Yeah.
Feels like a big one. This is where it hits people's wallets, right? Fair pay.
This is the foundation of fair pay. It serves as the factual, quantitative basis for figuring out the relative worth of different jobs in the company.
How does it do that?
By focusing on objective things, responsibility, complexity, the mental and physical effort required, the working conditions, it lets you build a wage structure that's internally equitable.
So you're taking the subjective judgment out of it. You're not judging the person, you're valuing the work.
You're valuing the work.
Yeah.
And that rigor is a core defense against pay gaps based on gender, race, or anything else. Without this analysis, compensation is just a mess of biases.
The bedrock of organizational justice. Okay, number 4 is performance appraisal.
Yep. If the job is analyzed scientifically, then the appraisal should be just as objective.
Makes sense.
Job analysis helps you define the absolute must-have performance standards for the most critical parts of a role. Once those are set, a manager can compare actual performance against those known, measurable criteria. Appraisals become about contribution, not about whether your boss likes you.
Our 5th point sounds like it's about conflict resolution. Labor relations.
It's invaluable there. I mean, if you're in collective bargaining or a union negotiation, this detailed, factual information is gold. Let's say a dispute comes up about workload. A union argues a new machine is too stressful. The job analysis data provides an objective baseline. It helps management and labor resolve the issue based on facts, not just feelings or grievances.
It formalizes the whole process.
It does. Then finally, number 6, and this one can literally save lives: health and safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, we focus on the money and motivation, but this is huge. The analysis systematically uncovers hazardous conditions: excessive noise, risk of repetitive strain injury, dangerous fumes, high heat.
Things you might not notice otherwise.
Exactly. By formally documenting them in the analysis, management is then forced to develop real, measurable ways to mitigate those risks. It's a fundamental safeguard for the well-being of your people.
So job analysis is this deep scientific process. The investigation, the audit, and the thing that comes out of it. That's the paperwork we all know, the job description.
Yes, and it's so important to keep them separate. People use the terms interchangeably, but they're not the same thing.
They're a sequence.
A sequence. Job analysis is the verb. It's the action of doing the study, the process.
And the job description, the JD, that's the noun. It's the statement that comes out of that process.
Precisely. And that sequence is non-negotiable. You have to do the analysis before you can write the description. The analysis serves all those HR functions we just talked about. The JD is more specific. It's there to guide the placement and training of the actual person filling the role.
You can't describe what you haven't first understood.
You've got it.
So let's talk about the job description itself, what really goes into it.
Okay, so the JD. It's an organized, factual statement. It details the duties and responsibilities of one specific job. If the analysis was the audit, this is the final certified report from that audit.
It's the official blueprint for that role in the organization.
Exactly. It's descriptive. It defines the purpose, the scope, and the contents are very structured. It's not just a list of tasks.
Right. It has the job title, the location.
The reporting structure, who you report to, who reports to you. It specifies the working conditions, must be able to lift 50 pounds or requires 50% travel, and it has to clearly state any specific hazards involved.
So its main purpose is to draw clear boundaries, to put a fence around the role so everyone knows what's in and what's out.
A fence is a great way to put it. It prevents overlap, confusion.
Yeah.
And those fences, they provide 8 specific points of usefulness for the company.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, they're essential for organizational change and development. If you're downsizing or merging, the JDs show you exactly what capabilities you have and where they are. It stops you from accidentally getting rid of a crucial function.
That makes a ton of sense. Second,
Defining and outlining career paths. A good JD lets an employee see their future. They can see how their current job maps to, say, a senior analyst role. That's huge for retention.
Okay, third is the limits of authority.
Yes, this is about operational clarity. The JD should state what decisions you can make. Can this engineer sign off on a $10,000 purchase? The JD should say so. It cuts down on ambiguity, it speeds everything up.
Fourth, developing performance standards. We touched on this, but the JD is where those standards get formalized for everyone to see.
Right. Fifth, it allows for job grading and classification. This is all about internal equity. It ensures that jobs of similar complexity and responsibility are graded at the same level, even if they're in totally different departments.
So an IT tech and a facilities tech could be at the same pay grade.
If their JDs show comparable levels of complexity, absolutely.
That's the sixth point.
Health and fatigue studies. Knowing the precise mental load, the travel, the environmental stress lets the organization scientifically monitor for burnout before it happens.
Seventh is investigating accidents. That feels pretty important.
Crucial. If there's an injury, the JD is the legal and operational baseline. It helps answer two questions. Was the employee doing what they were supposed to be doing? And were the safety protocols for that specific task followed? It protects everyone.
And the final one, number 8.
Promotions and transfers, all internal movement. You can't logically move someone to a new role if you haven't clearly defined what that new role actually entails. The JD makes sure it's a strategic move, not just a random shuffle.
Okay, so if the job description is the what all the requirements of the job itself, then the next piece must be the who.
That's it, exactly. That's the job specification. It translates the demands of the role into the requirements for the human being who has to fill it.
Often called the man specification or employee specification.
Right. And it's a statement of the minimum acceptable human qualities needed to do the job properly.
The word minimum there seems really important.
It's critical. This is a gate, not a wish list for some perfect, non-existent unicorn employee.
It stops you from demanding, 10 years of experience for an entry-level position.
Precisely. So the contents of the job spec are a written record of those required KSAO's knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics.
So this is where you list education, certifications, years of experience.
All of that. And also physical things like manual dexterity or mental traits like analytical skills or even behavioral stuff like the ability to lead a team.
So this is the document that the recruiters and the hiring managers are actually using every day.
This is their Bible, and it has 4 really direct applications. First, obviously, it specifies what kind of person is required, the baseline competency. Second, and most practically, it's the direct guide for recruitment and selection. Recruiters use it to write screening questions, to filter resumes. It keeps the search systematic and hopefully unbiased.
And after you hire the person.
It's still useful. Third, it helps in the training and appraisal of that new employee. It can highlight areas where they meet the minimum but could still use some development. It gives you an instant training plan.
And the fourth point.
By formalizing what's required, it helps you select the most appropriate candidate. A good match here reduces so many costs down the line. Poor performance, errors, and especially turnover.
It's so interconnected. Let's just one last time really nail down the difference between the two. The job description versus the job specification.
Let's do it. First, the meaning and content focus. The JD is about the role. It's a statement of the contents of the job title, duties, conditions.
It's organizational data.
Right. And the job spec is about the individual. It's a statement of the qualities needed to do that job: education, experience, aptitude. It's human data.
And then there's purpose and sequence. The purpose of the JD is to identify and describe the job, to set the boundaries.
Whereas the purpose of the job specification is purely practical, to help with recruitment, selection, training.
And the sequence is the key.
The sequence is everything. Job description is prepared before the job specification. First, you describe the job, then you define the person needed for that job.
Okay, so we've analyzed the role, we've defined it, we've specified the person for it. The whole scaffolding is up. But now the challenge changes, right? How do you stop this rigid structure from becoming a motivational prison?
Yes, a straitjacket. That's exactly right. We're moving from the structural engineering phase into the behavioral psychology phase.
The goal is to fight boredom.
Boredom, monotony, stagnation, all the things that creep into highly specialized jobs. And we have 2 main tools here, and it's a huge mistake when organizations confuse them.
All right, what's the first one?
The simpler one is job enlargement. This is where you increase the scope of a job by adding more tasks of a similar nature. You're just diversifying the activities to make it less repetitive.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say your job is to maintain one very complex spreadsheet. Job enlargement doesn't make that spreadsheet harder. It gives you 3 more complex spreadsheets to maintain.
Ah, so the work is related, but the volume of similar work just gets bigger.
That's it. We call this horizontal loading.
So the job gets wider. Maybe you use more of your existing skills. You see a more whole piece of the work.
That's the upside. But there's a really important limitation here that companies often miss.
What's that?
Job enlargement does not increase the depth of the job. You're still working at the same functional level. You're just doing more things at that level.
And I guess the training period gets longer because there's just more to learn.
A bit longer, yes. But despite the limitations, there are 4 clear benefits when it's used strategically.
Okay.
First, it does reduce monotony and boredom. Just rotating between 3 spreadsheets is better than staring at one all day. Second, that little bit of increased interest often helps increase efficiency. The mind stays a bit more engaged.
Third, it sounds like a good development tool.
It's an excellent way to train and develop more versatile employees. You're cross-training them on related tasks, which makes them more flexible for the company.
And fourth.
All of that helps reduce absenteeism, turnover, and grievances. People are just less likely to quit or call in sick if their work has a little more variety.
Okay, so that's enlargement. Wider, not deeper. What's the other tool?
The other tool is job enrichment. And this is the gold standard for motivation. It's about adding actual motivators to the job to make it more rewarding.
How do you do that?
Often by assigning the employee responsibility that's normally reserved for their supervisor.
So going back to the spreadsheet example, it's not about adding more spreadsheets.
No, it's about giving the employee authority over the budget, the analysis, and the strategic recommendations that come from that spreadsheet.
That is a huge difference.
It's vertical loading. The core idea is to give the worker greater autonomy for planning and controlling their own performance. You're pushing power down.
So they're not just doing the task, they're deciding how and when to do it and what the quality standards should be.
Exactly. This whole strategy is based on the idea that real, lasting motivation comes from the job itself, from opportunities for achievement, recognition, responsibility.
You feel like an owner, not just a cog in the machine.
You feel like an owner. And when you empower people that way, the impact is massive. There are 6 really big payoffs here.
Let's hear them.
First, it increases the quantity and quality of performance. When you own the process, you're more invested in the outcome. Second, it provides deep job satisfaction because the work becomes genuinely challenging and meaningful.
Third, it directly improves motivation because it creates real opportunities for growth, even without a promotion. Fourth, it dramatically helps reduce absenteeism and turnover. People who feel fulfilled don't want to leave.
Fifth, it makes the job truly interesting, reducing monotony, not just by adding tasks, but by adding intellectual challenge. It's a much deeper fix for boredom. And sixth, it helps create a better work environment overall, one that's built on trust and responsibility.
This distinction feels critical. It's not just academic. I can see how companies would try to do the easy thing, enlargement, and then wonder why it didn't work like enrichment.
It happens all the time. They're strategically very different commitments.
Let's break it down. Let's start with the fundamental nature.
Okay. Enlargement is horizontal loading. It's expansion. Enrichment is vertical loading. It's adding depth and autonomy.
What about the contents of the job?
With enlargement, you're just adding more tasks of a similar nature. With enrichment, you're fundamentally improving the quality of the job by adding managerial elements, like planning or quality control.
Their purpose seems different, too.
Very. Enlargement's purpose is just to reduce a bit of monotony. Enrichment's purpose is to make the job profoundly more challenging and satisfying.
Okay, what about the skills required? This feels like a big one.
Huge. For enlargement, you might not need to learn any new high-level skills. You're just applying what you already know to more things.
But enrichment?
Enrichment, by its very definition, requires you to acquire higher-level skills. You have to learn about planning or budgeting or leading. It's a real investment in that person.
And the final distinction, direction and control.
This is the real giveaway. In an enlarged job, you're still just following orders. It does not reduce the need for a superior's direction and control.
You're just a more versatile cog.
Exactly. Whereas job enrichment completely changes the management philosophy. It reduces the need for direction and control because the employee is empowered to use self-direction. It demands a culture of trust. It means letting go of micromanagement. That's the definitive sign of true enrichment.
Okay. We've gone from the micro level of the job to how to make it motivating. Where do we go next?
Now we scale up. We move from the single role to the entire enterprise. We've perfected the individual job's architecture. Now we have to ask the biggest strategic question of all.
Which is?
Do we have the collective talent we need, not just for today, but for the next 5 years? And to answer that, you need robust forecasting. You need manpower estimation.
This is where all that detailed job analysis work really informs the big, long-range plan.
That's it. Manpower estimation, or workforce planning, is the process management uses to figure out how to get from where they are today in terms of people to where they want to be in the future.
So the goal is having the right number of people and the right kind of people in the right place at the right time.
Doing things that result in the maximum long-range benefit for everyone, the organization and the individual.
This has to involve a lot of moving parts. Recruitment, succession planning.
All of it. You can't launch that new product line next year if you don't start hiring the engineers for it today. And you can't hire them if you don't know how many you need.
So this process has 2 dimensions. Let's start with the numbers part.
Dimension 1 is the quantitative aspect. This is purely about estimating the number of employees you'll need in the future, the headcount.
How do you even begin to calculate that?
You have to balance 2 things: future demand and expected supply. The demand side is figured out through workload analysis.
Workload analysis.
You have to forecast the total amount of work your company will need to do. And this isn't just a guess. Analysts use statistical methods. They look at historical ratios. For every million in sales, how many support staff do we need?
They use trend analysis to project growth.
Exactly. Then you take that total estimated workload, you divide it by how much work one person can do, and that gives you the number of employees you'll need. That's your demand.
Okay, so that's the demand. What about the supply?
The supply side is handled by workforce analysis. You have to look at your current staff and be realistic. Not all of them are going to be here next year.
Right. People retire, they resign, they get promoted.
All of that. Workforce analysis estimates that loss from your current supply. Analysts use historical turnover rates, maybe sophisticated models like Markov analysis, to predict how many people will move out of the system.
And the difference between demand and your expected future supply.
Yeah.
That's how many people you need to hire.
That's your net requirement. But that's only half the story.
Because it's not just about the numbers.
Never just about the numbers. Dimension 2 is the qualitative aspect. It's not just how many people, it's what kind of people. What knowledge, what skills, what experience do they need to have?
And this has to loop all the way back to the beginning of our deep dive.
It connects everything. That qualitative judgment is made almost entirely on the basis of the job analysis and the job specification we talked about in Section 1.
You can't define the right kind of person if you haven't first rigorously defined the job they're supposed to do.
You simply can't. If your strategy says you need to increase your software development capacity by 30%, the qualitative estimation tells you not just the number of new engineers, but also what specific coding languages they need to know and what level of experience they must have. It all fits together.
Manpower estimation seems incredibly complex, but also incredibly important. If you get this right, what are the big organizational payoffs? I think you said there were 6.
There are. First and most important is strategic assurance. It ensures the organization actually has the people, the right number, and right quality to execute its goals. Without this, your strategy is just a PowerPoint deck.
Second, it provides balance.
Yes, it helps you avoid having way too many people, which cost a fortune in payroll, or way too few, which leads to burnout and missed targets. It's about finding that optimal equilibrium.
Third, it directly enables growth.
It's the engine of growth. If you want to expand or modernize, you have to plan your manpower first. It removes the staffing roadblock that kills so many good ideas.
Fourth is internal efficiency.
Right. By planning ahead, you make better use of the people you already have. You reduce the waste of talent that happens when people are in the wrong roles. It's about making sure every single person is adding their maximum value.
Fifth is cost control. This has to be a big one for the finance department.
Oh, absolutely. It turns your workforce from being a reactive expense into a planned investment. It gives you the data to anticipate and control all the costs associated with people recruiting, training, salaries.
And the final point, which I love, shows how integrated this all is. Infrastructure planning.
Yes. If you know you're hiring 80 new salespeople in the next 6 months, it's not just an HR problem. That estimation helps every other department get ready.
So, you know you need more office space, more desks, more laptops.
More canteen capacity, more software licenses. It stops growth from becoming a sudden, chaotic mess. It's the logistical foundation for the whole HR plan.
What an incredible tour. We've really gone through the entire structural skeleton of an organization.
We really have.
We started at the very bottom with the analysis of a single job, the job analysis. And that gave us the job description, which is the what, and the job specification, the who.
Then we looked at how you keep people motivated in those roles. Through enlargement, that's the horizontal loading, adding more similar tasks, and the much more powerful enrichment, which is vertical loading, adding real autonomy.
And we wrapped it all up by scaling that micro-level view to the entire organization with a manpower estimation, making sure the company has the right number and quality of people to hit its long-term goals.
The one thing I hope everyone takes away from this is that these tools, especially job analysis and its outputs, they aren't just bureaucratic hurdles. They are the absolute bedrock of organizational fairness. They're the mechanisms that ensure pay equity, that formalize safety, and that give you, as an employee, a clear, objective path for your own growth. When you read a job posting now, you know it's not just some casual wish list. It's a formal statement that came from a deep, systematic process.
And knowing that is power, whether you're trying to get a raise or just trying to hire someone for your team. Now, before we go, let's leave you with one final thought to chew on, and it's about that optimization piece.
Right. Job enlargement versus job enrichment.
You mentioned that when money is tight, companies often default to enlargement. They just pile more tasks on fewer people because it's the cheap and easy fix.
It is. Enrichment requires a real investment in training, in culture, in trust.
So that raises a really profound question for today's workplace, right? With everything changing so fast, can any job stay stable and satisfying for long without a deliberate, continuous strategy to enrich that role?
What is the hidden cost of constantly relying on horizontal loading, on just doing more, versus vertical loading, which is about gaining more control and more meaning from your work?
That feels like the ultimate strategic choice for leaders right now.
It is. Do you design roles just for efficiency, or do you design them for deep, lasting human engagement?
Something to think about the next time you look at a job description and you wonder if you're being hired to be a highly versatile cog or a real owner. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the architecture of work.
My pleasure.
We hope this framework helps you navigate your next organizational challenge.